Historians divide the Great Galactic War into two periods, before and after. Before, 200 years of blood and destruction. After, peace and cooperation. The transition took 3 days. Who accomplished it? A single human. Marcus Chen's file remains classified because those who learn how the war really ended refuse to believe it. For 2 centuries, the Centauri Coalition and Vega Alliance had been locked in galaxy-spanning warfare. Entire star systems lay in ruins. Trillions had died in battles across light years. The Galactic Council had tried everything: mediation, sanctions, cultural exchanges, royal marriages. Nothing worked. The war had its own momentum, fed by centuries of revenge cycles. By year 200, even generals whispered that this conflict would never end. In the emergency council session on neutral station Omega-7, Chancellor Vextai opened with familiar words: "We gather to discuss ending the unendable war." Ambassador Threx shook his head. "We've exhausted every diplomatic approach. 16 billion just died at Kepler 9. From the back, young Attaché Zira spoke. "What about the humans?" The chamber erupted in uncomfortable laughter. "The humans?" Chancellor Vextai's crystalline form flickered with amusement. "They have no major fleets, no diplomatic experience." "They'd probably send just one person," scoffed Trade Minister Flux. "One diplomat against our greatest minds." But Zira stood firm. "Maybe we need someone who doesn't know this war is impossible to end." 3 days later, Marcus Chen emerged from the human transport. No entourage, no ceremony, just a middle-aged man in a gray diplomatic uniform carrying a briefcase. "I understand you have a war that needs ending," he said in accented galactic standard. Chancellor Vextai began explaining the conflict's complexity. "Two sides fighting so long they've forgotten why," Marcus interrupted gently. "Supply disputes that became blood feuds. I read the brief." He smiled at their surprise. "Shall we begin?" What Marcus did next shocked everyone. He ignored the war entirely. Instead of meeting with military commanders, he scheduled appointments with supply administrators, logistics coordinators, and maintenance crews. "Interesting," he told the Centauri fuel director. "You're buying deuterium from Vega through 17 intermediaries. Meanwhile, Vega uses Centauri power cells in their weapons." "The war economy creates complex relationships," the director admitted nervously. "You're fighting a war where both sides economically depend on each other. That's not conflict, that's expensive business partnership with aggressive marketing." By day 2, Marcus had mapped the economic web. Both sides were buying from, selling to, and employing each other through shell companies. On day 3, Marcus called the accounting, a meeting with financial officers from both sides. "Simple question," he said, displaying economic data. "What happens if this war ends tomorrow?" The projections showed both sides would face financial ruin. Now, what happens if it continues another decade? This showed resource depletion and complete economic collapse. 2 choices: end the war and reorganize around cooperation, or continue until there's nothing left. Fleet Admiral Corex protested, "Converting a war economy would take years. 18 months. You've been building peace infrastructure all along. You just called it war." Marcus didn't propose a peace treaty. He presented a business plan. Both sides would acknowledge economic reality. They were more profitable as partners than enemies. War machines would retool for construction. Military complexes would transition to civilian manufacturing. "The hardest part isn't making peace," Marcus explained. "It's admitting you never needed to be at war." Both sides signed the Chen Accords. Not a ceasefire, but recognition that warfare was economically irrational. The transformation was miraculous. Within weeks, weapons convoys carried medical supplies. War fleets protected trade routes. Soldiers became engineers rebuilding what they'd destroyed. 2 centuries of bloodshed simply stopped. When historians tried to document Marcus's methods, they found them absurdly simple: economic analyses, logistics charts, basic business principles. How could something so straightforward end a war that defeated the galaxy's greatest minds? The answer wasn't what Marcus had done, but how he'd thought about the problem. While everyone saw an ancient, intractable conflict, he saw a poorly managed business arrangement. The war ended because Marcus was an accountant who happened to work in diplomacy. Years later, he explained, "I didn't stop a war. I showed them both sides were paying more to fight than they'd earn cooperating. Once they saw the numbers, the rest was inevitable. His file remains classified because the truth is too simple and too revolutionary. The galaxy's greatest conflict ended through basic math and common sense. The Great Galactic War didn't end with military victory or diplomatic breakthrough. It ended when someone finally did the accounting and realized the books didn't balance. Sometimes the most impossible problems have the most ordinary solutions, and sometimes it takes an outsider to see that what everyone calls a war is really just a very poorly managed business partnership. The galaxy learned that humans don't solve problems the way everyone else does. They solve them the way that actually works.